Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another morning forecast here by 100+ forecast, and I'm doing a very early video because we got some major information here on Tropical Storm Sally. It is now 50 miles an hour and continuing to strengthen and organize, as it is now fully in the Gulf of Mexico here in really warm waters and is continuing to thrive. Speaking of thriving, this could very well become a Category 2 hurricane for landfall. The National Hurricane Center finally says it can be a Category 2, and I've been saying since, you remember yesterday, guys, I was saying this is definitely going to be stronger than the Category 1, and here it is now. Finally, the National Hurricane Center has caught on this here. But we got hurricane warnings now for Louisiana and Mississippi, and we have alerts from Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle. State of emergency has been issued for Louisiana, as this could very well be a very powerful Category 2 hurricane. Can see very well deadly storm surge, 2+ feet of rain, very large waves, guys. This is going to be really a pretty big storm considering what it was supposed to be and what it will be now. So this is just really a crazy topic. It was really unexpected if you think about it. Usually we know, if not a week or a week and a half ahead of time, this just formed at an invest. People were really doubting it, and there it is, possibly going to be just close to being a major hurricane, expected to be a Category 2, could very well even be maybe a moderate Category 2 and nearing Category 3 strength. Really depends, but we could very well see a rapid intensification before landfall in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. I would not rule out the possibility. But we're going to be talking about all this, the tracks, cone, timing, my forecast, expected amount of rainfall, winds, everything. But before we get to the video, please subscribe if you're new, hit the like button, and post notification icon. Without further ado, let's get this major Sally upload. So before we actually get in all the video and the details of government agencies and models, I'm going to be showing my own forecast here before we get in all of this information here. So I do expect it to be around 60 miles an hour, if not possibly around the 5 o'clock update later today. So I do expect it to be 60 miles an hour by the end of today. It's sitting at 50 miles an hour here, and it could be 55 miles an hour at the 11 o'clock update. Then I see it being coming 75 miles an hour, so becoming a hurricane as early as tomorrow. I know that's crazy, but I see it possibly being a hurricane as early as tomorrow, and then continue to strengthen, now going at 85 miles an hour, then continue to be a strong Category 1, and then boom, becoming Category 2 before a landfall at 100 miles an hour there, and then it goes up the eastern areas of Louisiana and then makes landfall once again for Mississippi and the Louisiana border at 105 miles an hour. So the National Hurricane Center predicts 100 miles an hour. I am predicting 105 miles an hour, and depending if it does get to that 60 miles an hour by the end of today, really, I might even increase it to 110 miles an hour for my forecast, because really, the National Hurricane Center went from predicting 70 miles an hour to now 100 miles an hour. So who knows if they're still underestimating it a bit, but I am going with 105 miles an hour. I still think this could be stronger than 100 miles an hour, maybe even 110 miles an hour, because those waters are really warm, and it's expected to slow down in the coming hours here, and it's expected to slow down before landfall. And it's really warm waters. We saw what Laura did, and I think we can see a rapid intensification here as well. I really think this could happen. Same water temperatures for Laura. I'm really watching out for the possibility for a moderate Category 2 to maybe even getting to the point where it's going to be a rather strong Category 2 hurricane. I mean, 110 miles an hour isn't out of the picture here. And I'm really worried about New Orleans, areas near Grand Isle, Biloxi, Mobile, Alabama, Gulfport. I'm really worried out for those general areas, because we can be seeing some really deadly storm surge and a lot of rain. So here's looking at the National Hurricane Center. This is actually the 8 a.m. update here at Eastern Time. And as you see there, Sally continue to move west-northwest, I believe so, west-northwest, and there it is, moving west-northwest at 13 miles an hour. So we all knew this was going to speed up after going over Florida, but now it's expected to possibly slow down around 24 hours before landfall here, and this can make landfall late Tuesday, early Wednesday, so it's not too far from getting to the point where it's going to be landfall. I mean, landfall isn't too far from now. It really isn't if you think about it. But there it is at 50 miles an hour and 996 millibar pressure. I mean, this pressure is continuing to drop a lot. it is continuing and continuing to drop. It's at 50 miles an hour, guys. I mean, a 50 mile an hour tropical storm at 996 millibars. 996 millibars can be a category 1, and this is 50 miles an hour. I think this is definitely stronger than 50 miles an hour right now. I mean, we've had some sustained winds from boats in the general area off Florida on the western coast reporting 55 miles an hour sustained, and even 60 miles an hour sustained on surface from boats that reported winds off the west coast of Florida near Tampa, or a couple miles away, or a few miles away off the coast of Florida, around 30-ish, 40-ish miles away from the coast. They have reported 60 mile an hour sustained winds. So I think this is definitely stronger than 50 miles an hour. You don't really see a 50 mile an hour tropical storm much with a pressure that low. So I think this could very well be 55 miles an hour, if not even a bold 60 miles an hour in the next 2 updates. So by 2 p.m. Eastern, I think we can very well see 60 miles an hour, if not even 55. But there it is, Hurricane Paulette. We're going to be briefly talking about Paulette throughout the video, but I'm really focused on Sally right now. But there it is, Paulette, 80 miles an hour, 978 pressure, and moving westward with at 14 miles an hour. And then, of course, we got Tropical Depression 20. Could it very well be Tropical Storm Teddy like we expect? So here's look now at Tropical Storm Sally. It looks very, very organized. I mean, it really had a lot below convection last night, as you see, but it's very organized. That low pressure is kind of all the way to the north of this convection. That's where that low pressure is. All the convections to the south, really, or the most amount of convection is left to the south of the low pressure. But really, I mean, look at this nice, very well-looking banding here. You can kind of see it's very organized. It's a very large tropical storm considering it's 50 miles an hour. Very large. It's still not too far off from bringing tropical storm wind still for the western coast of Florida. There's that low pressure. There's that low pressure right there, kind of to the northwest of that convection, possibly headed for areas such as New Orleans, Biloxi, and those general areas. Then expected to take a northeastern turn. Actually, I don't know why it's clicking like that. Northeastern turn into areas like Alabama and Georgia. I actually am expected to get a ton of rain from this. Actually, if I like my forecast for the next 5 days, I'm expected to get downpours for 3 straight days, and the temperatures drop significantly. I mean, significantly. I'm going to be seeing highs in the low 70s and highs in the high 60s, which is super duper rare for September. Usually my average highs is in the mid 80s, and it's gonna be like a 20 degrees below average. So this is gonna be very well. I can actually get a tropical depression here. So if I do get that, I will actually vlog it. So as you see there, pretty big tropical storm wind extent, decent tropical storm wind field. As you see, like I said, not too far. I mean, there's going to be some tropical storm wind gusts still for portions of western Florida, but the sustained tropical storm winds are going to continue to stay throughout the Atlantic. But as you see, National Hurricane Center predicts a hurricane as early as 2 p.m. Monday. Like I said, I think this could be a hurricane as early as tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. I wouldn't doubt this becomes a hurricane tomorrow, and that would change the whole thing. That would change storm surge. That would change the expected peak of its strength. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't doubt it becomes 110 miles an hour. But as you see, hurricane warnings for New Orleans, hurricane warnings for Biloxi, Gulfport, Grand Isle, and much of the general areas where Katrina went. I mean, this is the general area where we had hurricane warnings for Katrina. As you see, the National Hurricane Center gets this to downtown New Orleans, going straight over New Orleans. That is not good at all. That means the worst of the storm surge could very well be for New Orleans and for the northeastern quadrant, which leaves Biloxi and Gulfport. Mississippi and Louisiana could obviously be the hardest hit by this, especially Mississippi, since they will be at the northeastern quadrant, which is where we see the worst of the storm. We already saw lower how that northeastern quadrant went. As you see, though, we have tropical storm watches as far as the Apalachicola and Big Bend area. This is showing how big this wind field and these impacts could be felt. So all the way from the southeastern Louisiana coast to Apalachicola, we do have some type of alert, and we have state of emergencies. The governor of Louisiana has actually issued a state of emergency for the state of Louisiana, and hurricane watches are for Mobile. Hurricane watches continue for areas not far from Morgan City, Louisiana. I mean, it seems like Louisiana is getting really hit hard this year. We had Cristobal, Laura is already enough, and then it seems like Sally could very well be a Category 2 landfall. And we have tropical storm warnings for Apalachicola, Panama City, Mobile, areas near Pensacola, Destin. So it is not a good time to go take a school break and go to the beach. It is not a great day to do that, or a great week to do that if you're going to go in the Gulf Coast, unless you're in Texas, or if you're in Miami, or sorry, not Miami, Naples, anywhere except this cone area, or if they're not under alert. I think you will be fine, but obviously we can be seeing impacts hundreds of miles away from the cone, and then expected to be become a tropical depression by Thursday, and then go out into the southeast. And as you see, this could be a tropical depression for me. I'm actually not too far from that D for tropical depression. I'm actually right here near Lake Lanier, so I could very well get 30 plus miles an hour, and obviously extremely heavy rain. That would be very interesting to get a tropical depression this year. Very, very interesting here. But as you see, definitely not something you want to see. But obviously, the National Hurricane Center has increased their forecast, surprisingly, from 85 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour. So they are definitely getting a lot more confident in this. And as you see, this could be 70 miles an hour by Monday early morning. I think that's a little too late. I really do. I think this could be a hurricane as early as tomorrow afternoon or evening. And then they show 100 miles an hour for landfall. So just getting to the Category 2 force winds. And look at New Orleans is basically right in the middle of this forecast, and so is Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta is basically right in the middle of the forecast as well. So could very well see some big impacts here. But 60 miles an hour as far as areas near Pensacola. I mean, this is going to be some long felt effects here. All right, let's check out the advisories we have here. This is the 8 a.m. update. As you see, Apalachicola under those tropical storm watches, and not too far from those tropical storm warnings. Panama City, Pensacola, Mobile, Biloxi. You guys are right on the border with hurricane warnings and tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches. Actually, Biloxi is under all three. I believe Biloxi is under tropical storm warnings, hurricane warnings, storm surge warnings, and a hurricane watch. I believe that's where Biloxi has all four of those. Pensacola and Mobile, you guys are under those tropical storm warnings, as well as Panama City. So a lot of the western panhandle of Florida. And look at this, Mobile is also under hurricane watches. All of the Alabama coast has hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings, and I believe storm surge watches and portions of storm surge warnings for the areas near the border with Mississippi. And those purples, we have the hurricane warnings. Look at New Orleans, Grand Isle, Biloxi. You guys are all under those hurricane warnings, even as well, I believe, Gulfport. So look at how widespread those hurricane warnings are, and I would not doubt those hurricane warnings spread to the Alabama border. But we also have hurricane watches for Grand Isle and areas in that southeastern parish areas of Louisiana, and we even have tropical storm warnings as far as Macomb, Mississippi there. So this is a very widespread long felt area of impacts of Sally. Tracks, as you see, they're all aiming for a Louisiana landfall and then making a Mississippi landfall, because we have a little area, a gap of water. So we can be seeing a landfall for Louisiana and a landfall for Mississippi. We still have a couple models getting this to a direct Mississippi landfall. But look at this. I see this is the general cone here. This is basically the general cone. Models are somewhat generally agreeing, but the majority show landfall in 48 hours. That's soon if you think about it. And then they take a landfall for areas right here, and then just missing New Orleans by a couple miles. But really, New Orleans is gonna get some really big effects from this. Really, tropical storm Sally intensity. As you see, a lot more models are getting into a hurricane. But I would not doubt if a lot more get this to a Category 2 by the next coming hours. Expect this Category 2 orange to be all the way down here, because models will get us to a Category 2. Trust me, by the end of today, if not even early this afternoon, expect models to get this to a Category 2. Expect that. But as you see, 50 miles an hour could be a hurricane as early as 18 hours. You see, even the earliest models show that, and as late. Getting to a hurricane as late as 36 hours. So I'm really telling you, I mean, I think we have a big portion. Look, we have a big portion of models that show being a hurricane in less than 24 hours. I mean, I'm telling you guys, this could be a hurricane tomorrow. It really, really can. Let's look at the hurricane model. H4, as you see, continues to show strengthening, getting down there at 995, 994, 990 millibars. This is going to bring some really strong winds that possibly over 80 knots here. So this is showing you this is definitely going to be possibly a very strong category 2 here. And then it even gets it to 75 knots. So going to bring some very strong winds inland, and then possibly just going to go up there inland into portions of Louisiana there. So let's look at the H4. Here, as you see, they get it up to 62 miles an hour by the next coming hours. So I think 60 miles an hour is definitely likely in the coming hours, possibly by the 2 p.m. advisory update. And then they show it staying steady at 60 miles an hour, and then it starts blowing up here. Like I said, I think a rapid intensification is very possible. As you see, now it gets to 86 miles an hour in 24 hours there. And then in the next coming hours, gets to in the next 27 hours, gets to 92 miles an hour. Then it's going to possibly go in 30 hours, 106 miles an hour, and then continue to strengthen here up to possibly get to the point where it's 106 miles an hour. I mean, look at that. This is going to be this is not something people expected here. I mean, people did not expect Sally to be like this. But look at what we're seeing. A monster possible Category 2 hurricane. I mean, Category 2, you think about it. Oh, Category 2, that's not too bad. It's only a 2. That's going to bring in still, at some points, deadly storm surge, guys. And that's 100+ miles an hour. That is still significantly deadly and significant. And when it's going to be making landfall in areas that have been seeing that are areas where we have a lot of parishes and easily flooded, it's even going to be a bigger threat. I mean, look, Katrina, guys. Katrina was a Category 3 when it made landfall. This is one category below. Katrina was a Category 3, and it brought 30-foot storm surge because it was a general area of easily flooded. This is going to be a Category 2, guys. This is not going to be super duper much weaker than than Katrina. Obviously, Katrina was almost a Category 4, but still, it was still a Category 3, and this is going to be a Category 2, and maybe more models, maybe it could rapidly or intensify way more than expected and become a Category 3. But look at this. And then the latest model this latest run gets it to 114 miles an hour, guys. Look at this. It seems like this HRRR is going to be taking it for an Alabama landfall. That's what this is showing. We all know the stronger this gets, the sooner that northern turn is. So National Hurricane Center says it being 100 miles an hour and then doing this. That's what National Hurricane Center says. But if it blows up to 115 miles an hour before landfall and it rapidly intensifies way more than expected, that can make it do that northern turn sooner, and that's going to bring in way bigger impact for Alabama and way bigger impact for Florida, which is going to be a big concern because that's Panama City, that's Mobile, that's Apalachicola, Pensacola, Biloxi, Mobile. You guys are all going to be at risk. I mean, you guys are still not out of the neck of the woods. Trust me, this cone could really shift east at any moment because we really don't know exactly if it will rapidly intensify. The National Hurricane Center thinks it will, but only to 100 miles an hour. But this HRRR is showing getting to 115 miles an hour, which is exactly why it gets it to possibly making a landfall either in Alabama or either in Mississippi and Alabama border. I mean, I possibly will kind of maybe even basically take it to maybe Florida based on what it's showing here. But look at this. It's like, as you see, it definitely slows down. Like, this is definitely going to slow down significantly, and that could help increase the rapid intensification phase, which can increase the speed, or which increase the strength, which will increase the possibility of it possibly bringing bigger impacts for Alabama and Florida, which is exactly why I said I wouldn't definitely get hurricane warnings all the way up to Alabama. I would not. That's actually not out of the woods. So if you're in Pensacola, if you're in Panama City, if you're in Mobile, New Orleans, Grand Isle, Biloxi, Gulfport, you guys definitely have to be on the lookout. I know Panama City is way out there and only in tropical storm warning and way out of the cone. But look, if this actually does rapidly intensify stronger or sooner than expected, which it has a chance to do, that will put you guys at a bigger risk and closer to the direct landfall. So I'm just saying, keep a close eye on this. Really keep a close eye on it, because this what HRRR shows, that isn't out of the picture if it makes a landfall for Alabama. I still think Alabama isn't out of the picture for direct landfall. I know it's 48 hours away. Everything shows New Orleans, or everything shows Louisiana, Mississippi. Everybody's showing this. This is what everybody is showing here. But I'm telling you, if it really does rapidly organize or intensify it just a good bit more, that's going to change this a lot more and could lead a big, way bigger city that we're at Apalachicola. I mean, even Tallahassee, you guys could be at a bigger risk. Dothan, Alabama, Montgomery, even Montgomery, guys, could be at bigger risk because this could strengthen a good bit more. And I'm still saying this has a good chance to be stronger than 100 miles an hour because of the reasoning that's going to slow down a good bit, a lot, and that could help rapid or intensification. So I'm still saying Alabama and Florida. Don't say that since you're not on the cone, you're not in a risk. Trust me, you guys still have a chance for a landfall. I know it seems crazy, but when I mean Florida, I mean like Pensacola, not like Tallahassee or anything like that. I'm saying the far western panhandle, or really Alabama, still has a chance to get a landfall. I know it seems crazy, it really, really does, but trust me on this. Just trust me. I mean, Laura shocked us. It really did. It really shocked us, and it went to different areas really than expected. I mean, models were still showing it 48 hours out, going for areas near Morgan City, and then it hit areas in the border of Texas. So trust me, if you're in Alabama, if you're in Pensacola, don't rule out the possibility for getting a direct landfall or closer to the landfall. So here's a look at the rainfall totals, and now you see 10 to 15 inches so far, and look where those 10 to 15 inches are from all the way from Louisiana to Florida. Florida, like I said, Pensacola, you guys aren't out of the picture. I mean, you may not be in the cone, but you guys can still be seeing 15 inches of rain. Even this shows that Pensacola, Destin, Fort Walton, you guys are still going to possibly get a ton of rain. And a ton of rain, 10 to 15 inches as far like that. Like I'm saying, the northeastern quadrant is going to be the biggest risk, which means Mississippi and far western Alabama. Not New Orleans, not Grand Isle. Yeah, you guys with the direct landfall, but the strongest of the winds and the heaviest of the rains always in that northeastern quadrant. And you know who's going to be that northeastern quadrant based on the landfall? Alabama and Mississippi, which is going to bring big threats from Mobile, big threats for Biloxi, Gulfport, Hattiesburg, so name it. I'm really telling you guys, if you're in Pensacola, Mobile, do not really just soften the situation, because you guys can very well get 15 inches of rain and feet of storm surge. So just really, I know you're not on the cone, but trust me, this cone could shift closer and closer to you if this continues to strengthen faster and sooner than expected. So guys, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll continue to update you guys on Sally.